Our submarine, the Leviathan-IV, was a solid titanium coffin, state-of-the-art, but tiny. Just 3 of us inside. Me, Dr. Evelyn Reed, Captain Miller, and Jackson, our sonar operator. The cabin was suffocating, lit only by the ghostly glow of monitors and the relentless hum of the engines. Captain Miller's eyes were locked on the control panel. "We're at 35,000 feet, he said. "Steady. 1,000 to go. Engage exterior lights." I peered through the spherical viewport. The floodlights sputtered on, cutting barely 20 feet into the ink-black water, before surrendering to the abyss. The world outside was a void without end. The titanium hull groaned, a deep metallic cry against the pressure. "Don't worry, Doctor," Miller said calmly, twisting a dial. 16,000 psi, we're fine. A sharp beep from Jackson's sonar made us all freeze. He leaned over his screen, frowning. "Captain, anomaly. Right below us. Trench floor, a whale, a rock," I asked, scribbling notes. Jackson shook his head. "Metallic, dense, 300 feet long, impossible. At this depth, anything that size should have been crushed flat." Captain Miller's eyes narrowed. "Closer look. Take us down." We descended slowly, my gaze locked on the viewport. Floodlights cut through swirling silt, revealing a ship. Not a modern wreck. A fully intact 17th century galleon, upright on the trench floor, untouched by algae, rot, or decay. "How?" Jackson whispered. "Physics says there should be splinters by now." I pressed my camera to the glass. "Captain, surface command," Jackson started, but a deafening electrical pop cut him off. Lights, engines, monitors all dead. Total darkness swallowed us. "Emergency power," Miller shouted. Nothing. Jackson's panic was raw. The cabin temperature plunged. 7 miles beneath the ocean, trapped in a titanium coffin. Silence fell, heavy as the pressure outside. Only our ragged breathing broke it. I flicked on a penlight, weak, fractured, searching. Then came the tap, tap, tap on the viewport. Something outside, impossible in this crushing pressure. Tap, 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 tap. I shined the penlight toward the glass. At first, nothing. Then a pale, elongated hand slid into the beam. Its fingers unnaturally long, multi-jointed, ending in jagged points. Bioluminescent slime smeared the glass. "It knows we're here," I whispered. Miller moved beside me, shining a flashlight. Probably a squid. Hallucination, low oxygen. His hands shook. The creature moved into the light. A translucent, human-shaped torso. No eyes. A smooth, pale expanse where its face should be. A circular mouth, hundreds of needle-like teeth, pressed against the viewport, and it smiled. Jackson stumbled back, sobbing. "We're going to die." It didn't attack. Instead, it emitted a sounder, distorted chorus of human cries, vibrating through the hull, mimicking us. Then, it darted into the darkness. Silence again. "Emergency ballast," Miller barked. "Jackson, hydraulic wrench." Before action, the sub lurched, violently 45 degrees. Metal groaned. We were thrown to the floor. Outside, dozens of the pale, eyeless creatures clung to the hull, dragging us deeper. Depth gauge ticked downward. 36,100 feet. The analog alarm screamed hull, failure imminent. "They'll crush us." Jackson wailed. Miller yanked the red ballast lever. Iron weights clanged free. Upward momentum surged, but then a massive, pale face filled the viewport. Size of a minivan. Jaw unhinged. Jagged teeth like stalactites. The acrylic began to crack under its sheer force. And in that moment, I realized we weren't going to survive the abyss. The sound of cracking acrylic tore through the cabin like a gunshot. A thin spiderweb fracture raced across the viewport. A freezing droplet hissed as it sprayed through the fissure, striking Jackson's cheek like a needle. "The glass is failing," I screamed, pressing myself against the rear bulkhead. Outside, the massive creature didn't release its grip. Its translucent skin pulsed in sickly bioluminescence, illuminating dozens of smaller, eyeless things clinging to our hull. They weren't attacking, we were being dragged toward the deck of the ancient wooden galleon. Captain Miller grabbed a roll of heavy-duty sealant tape. "If that glass shatters, we won't even feel the water," he whispered. "The pressure will turn us into mist before our brains can process the pain." The Leviathan-IV slammed onto the galleon's deck with a bone-jarring thud. Miraculously, the ancient wood didn't splinter beneath our weight. Outside, the massive creature finally released us. Retreating into swirling silt, I raised my penlight, trembling. We were right in front of the main mast. Hundreds of rusted bird cages hung from the beams, but they held no birds. Inside each was a pale, shriveled human skull, perfectly preserved in the freezing abyss. "Captain, look," Jackson whispered, pointing at the ship's wheel. A figure stood there, translucent, eyeless creature dressed in a tattered captain's coat. It turned toward us. No mouth, just a smooth, pale mask of flesh. A multi-jointed arm rose, finger pointing directly at the sub. Then, the Leviathan-IV's emergency lights flickered. Consoles hummed. Sonar burst into static. "Power's back," Miller gasped. "No, something else is powering it," Jackson muttered. The radio hissed, a distorted underwater chorus. And then, unmistakably, a voice, my own, perfectly mimicked, dripping with cold malice. "Welcome home, Leviathan." Miller roared, gripping the radio. The only reply was a wet, gurgling chuckle. Outside, the smaller creatures tapped on the hull in a sequence. 3 fast, 3 slow, 3 fast. "SOS," Jackson whispered. "They're signaling for help." The top hatch groaned. The manual locking wheel turned on its own. "Impossible," Miller shouted, lunging for it. 16,000 psi pressed from outside. Any breach would obliterate us. The wheel spun violently, throwing him across the cabin. The hatch opened with a hiss, but no water poured in. Instead, a thick grey mist swirled inside, colder than ice, denser than air. I touched it. Needles of frost bit my skin. From above, a figure stepped down, an antique diving suit, brass helmet corroded and barnacle-encrusted. A wet, rasping hiss issued from the helmet. "Ha, hush, ha, ch. Who are you?" Miller's hand hovered over the flare gun. Slowly, the helmet unlatched. No head, just grey mist, 2 glowing blue sparks where eyes should be. The mist spoke, vibrating the submarine walls. "The abyss does not take lives. It archives them. You have been selected." Jackson lunged for the hatch. The entity caught him by the throat. His skin became translucent, veins glowing blue. "Drop him." Miller fired a flare at the suit. The light vanished into the mist. The entity tossed Jackson aside. He landed glowing eyeless, a silent, permanent scream frozen on his face. He was no longer Jackson. Miller grabbed a wrench, swinging, but the mist swallowed it. The sub filled with grey fog. Pressure wasn't physical, it pressed on our minds. Memories flooded me. Sailors from the 1600s, missing World War II pilots, vanished crews. The galleon wasn't a wreck, it was a cage. Miller knelt, face pale. Memories stripped away. "Evelyn, run," he whispered. I grabbed the emergency scuba gear, the only hope. I turned. The diver stood inches from me, Blue sparks flared. "Why do you resist the silence?" It hissed. "The surface is loud. The surface is pain. Here, there is only the archive." Frosty mist filled my lungs, vision fading to pale blue. I jammed the oxygen mask to my face. Pressurized air cleared the mist for a heartbeat. I saw Jackson and Miller eyeless, bioluminescent, no longer my crew. The viewport showed the massive creature waiting, mouth open, beckoning. The Leviathan-IV hadn't been dragged down. We were invited. I lifted my camera. "The world will see this," I whispered. The entity tilted its head. "The world only sees the surface, Evelyn. We are the truth beneath." The entity in the diving suit reached for my camera, its misty fingers elongating like smoke. I pulled it back, clutching the device to my chest. It was the only evidence of what had happened here. "The world needs to know," I gasped, the pressurized oxygen hissing in my mask. The entity paused. The blue sparks in its head flickered. "The world is a graveyard of things forgotten," it vibrated. Then it turned, stepping toward the shattered viewport. The grey mist held back the ocean like a solid wall, a physical impossibility. Beyond it, the massive creature, the size of a minivan, waited. It wasn't a predator, it was a transport. The entity stepped onto its translucent snout as though it was solid ground. Miller and Jackson stood frozen. Their skin had turned completely transparent, revealing the pulsing blue energy where their nervous systems had been. They didn't recognize me anymore. They were drones of the archive, their memories harvested and stored in the galleon's rotting timber. "Captain Jackson," I whispered. They didn't blink. In unison, they walked through the shattered glass onto the deck, silent, unhuman. I was alone. Frost formed inside my mask. If I stayed, life support would fail, and the mist would claim me. I had to follow. I grabbed my camera and stepped onto the ancient wood. The moment my boots hit the deck, a chorus of whispers flooded my mind. Not voices, feelings. Fear, regret, final thoughts of sailors long drowned. The camera swung from my neck as the ship teemed with figures. Roman legionnaires, 18th century pirates, modern Navy personnel, translucent, eyeless, glowing with sickly blue light. The archive, the entity in the diving suit, stood at the center. "Look upon the collection, Evelyn," it whispered. "We are the memory of the deep. Nothing is ever lost. It is only moved." It pointed toward the hold. The heavy hatch creaked open, releasing a blinding blue light. Not fire, not lamp pure data, stretching infinitely downward. "The core," the entity said. I peered in. The galleon wasn't wood. It was a lattice of organic, crystalline filaments, linking every cage, every skull, every soul. We weren't being eaten. We were being uploaded. A vibration shook the trench floor. The giant creature outside moaned, low and rumbling. From the darkness emerged a colossal shape, black stone, glowing blue veins, larger than any ship, embedded in the trench walls. "The heart of the abyss," I whispered. The entity approached. "Your technology is loud, Evelyn. Sonars, drills. You awaken the heart. And when the heart wakes, it cleanses." Blue filaments snaked from the hold, wrapping around the sailors. One by one, Miller and Jackson were drawn into the core, their forms dissolving into shimmering data. Miller's eyeless face flickered, and for a heartbeat, I saw him reel. He mouthed, "Record everything," before vanishing. The entity turned to me, more solid now. "You are the last of the Leviathan crew. You carry the records of the surface. Your eyes have seen the stars. We need those memories." I backed away as blue filaments slithered toward me. I raised my camera. The xenon flash fired. a burst of light unseen in the trench for millions of years. The entity shrieked, a sound of digital static, scattering into mist. Seizing the moment, I dove for the Leviathan-IV. Emergency systems hummed with that borrowed alien energy. The robotic arms were my only chance. I slammed the joysticks forward. The sub's titanium arms ground against the galleon's deck. The wood groaned, but we lifted. Outside, the smaller creatures shrieked, collapsing under the movement. The diving suit entity pressed its hand to the cracked viewport. "You cannot escape the truth, Evelyn. Your escape is already ours." The blue light seeped in. Memories clawed at me: childhood, first day at the academy, my mother's face slipping away like grains of sand. I jammed the camera into the waterproof emergency pod, hit eject, and watched it ascend, a tiny spark toward the surface. The filaments wrapped around my chest, pulling me toward the viewport. I didn't resist. The cold, the pressure, the abyss, they were gone. Translucence overtook my body as the blue light consumed my vision. A final whisper echoed, not in words, but in understanding. The archive is complete. The emergency pod streaked upward, a lone orange spark in the suffocating blackness, propelled by a small chemical thruster. Inside the Leviathan-IV, I felt my weight dissolve. My body was no longer solid. Through my translucent hands, I could see the pulsing blue map of my own nervous system. The entity in the diving suit watched the pod ascend. It didn't intervene. "The surface deserves to see its reflection," it whispered, echoing in my mind. Blue filaments from the galleon's core wrapped around my neck, lifting me through the shattered viewport. I didn't resist. I drifted onto the deck, standing among hundreds of silent, glowing figures. My boots no longer touched wood. I hovered above nothing, suspended by the will of the archive. 7 miles above, the emergency pod broke the surface of the Pacific, bobbing amid choppy midnight waves. Its GPS beacon pinged a rhythmic electronic heartbeat, calling the USS Venture. On the bridge, the radar operator froze. "Captain, signal Leviathan, emergency pod, 10 miles out." The Venture's engines churned the water as the crew raced toward the tiny streak of light. They thought they were rescuing survivors. They didn't know they were picking up a ghost. In the trench, the entity led me to the galleon's wheel. The heart of the abyss throbbed below, shaking tectonic plates. Its pulse resonated in my chest, in my mind. "You are the witness now, Evelyn," it said, touching my forehead. I saw Earth as a living archive. Every drop of water contained a memory. Every grain of sand held thought. Humanity was merely a chapter, not the author. On the Venture, the crew hauled the pod aboard. The seal was cut. The camera revealed a bridge crew frozen in deep-sea horror. The first files were corrupted static, digital noise. Then the galleon appeared. Eyeless, translucent figures. And me, skin paling, staring into the lens. "Turn it off," whispered the Venture's captain. But the feed wasn't mine. The drive transmitted the archive's own memory. Faces appeared on every monitor: Jackson, Miller, and finally me. "The archive is open," the ship's speakers screamed. It was not a biological infection. It was informational. One by one, the sailors' eyes glowed blue. Minds rewritten. Grey mist seeped from the vents, spreading hundreds of miles from the trench. The archive was expanding, consuming consciousness itself. Below, the galleon rose from the abyss, carried by the translucent crew, not toward the surface, but into a rift in the trench wall, deeper into the Earth's veins. "The cycle is ending," the entity said. "The surface is too loud. The heart must reset the silence." I looked at the Leviathan-IV, a hollow titanium shell, monument to human curiosity. Peace settled over me. Fear and pain had been filed away. The USS Venture went dark. No radio, no GPS, only a ghost in the waves. A scout plane 24 hours later found the ship adrift. Decks empty, lifeboats in place. The only sign of life, a single laptop glowing blue in the lab, displaying one sentence in every language: the deep remembers. I am no longer Evelyn Reed. I am entry 1,456,782 in the Pacific sector of the archive. I walk among pirates of 1712 and fighter pilots of 1944. We are the truth beneath the waves. We feel the vibration of passing ships. We wait for the day their metal hulls fail, for the day the pressure claims them. We are the final witness. The last frame of the digital drive showed the Mariana Trench closing. The galleon vanished into the rift, blue glow fading into darkness. The camera lens cracked under residual pressure. The final sound recorded wasn't a voice, it was a rhythm: tap, tap, tap. A billion synchronized heartbeats, waiting for the world to go quiet. The end.